First of all, thank you, Dean Jackson, for that introduction. I feel very humbled by it. I'm very appreciative. Now, here I go. Chancellor Gray, President Runte, Chairman of the Board, Jacques Short, faculty, honored guests, and above all students, but I should soon say graduate students. You know, little did I dream that 55 years ago, I received my Bachelor of Journalism from Carleton, that I would be standing today in front of this year's graduates to receive an honorary degree from my alma mater. I think there's no words to describe my wonder and gratitude at this wonderful gift. And I'm proud to share this day with you. I salute each one of you, graduates, as you achieve your goal of a degree from this great university. Commencement speakers like me often comment on the rosy futures ahead of today's graduates. And yet, we all know that this is an uncertain time. We all know the challenges of the job market and the broader economy. So my message to you today is very simple. Whether times are good or times are tough, take action and contribute to your community and the world. That will put you on the path to the most gratifying results. You know, I grew up with that lesson. I come from a pioneer family who first arrived on the shores of the Ottawa River in 1818. It's a long way back. Life was tough, but they never gave up the dream of opening up the land for their families. 100 years later, my father ran a bakery that he started in 1911 with just $25. He knew challenges. His bakery was wiped out in the 1930s, and then he started up again. By 1966, he was building one of the largest bakeries in North America. But due to some marketing mistakes and events beyond his control, the bank called our note and told us our family company was bankrupt, to close the door. We could have run up the white flag, but we didn't. My sister Jean Piggott, former chair of the National Capital Commission, who received an honorary degree some years ago from Carleton, the two of us took over the reins of our company. It was a very dark moment. We made the decision to fight our way back from the brink of bankruptcy. It was hard work, but we slowly turned things around. I will never forget the afternoon, 14 years later, when I sat at my office desk and signed the dividend checks with the cumulative interest to our long-suffering shareholders. That meant that we had paid the very last of our debts. It was a long road. Yet that did not mean that life was settled and predictable. It never is, and it never should be. A few years later, I was involved in preparations for the free trade agreement with the United States. One day, I met him in the hall. The chief Canadian negotiator came over to me and said to me, "Mrs. Hale, has your company made plans to close down your plant?" And I looked at him and I said, "Why?" And you know what he said? "Because under the free trade agreement, your company will not survive." Just like that. What do you do when an expert tells you that you're finished? You know what you do? You take action and you don't give up. One day I expect to meet that gentleman. I haven't as yet. But when I do, I'm going to tell him that my company, Morse Lamont, is still thriving. We now have 3 frozen food plants in Toronto going full tilt with 425 employees. We serve the entire North American market, and we're making a profit. So. Now, a few short stories to tell you about my involvement in the volunteer sector. Among the last words that my wonderful 89-year-old father said on his deathbed, in his own bed, he said, and listen to this, we were 3 sisters, and he looked at us and he said, "All I ask of my family is that they be contributors." Isn't that a wonderful thing for a father to say to his children? And I have tried to live up to that expectation and have had the privilege of serving on countless volunteer boards here and around the world. I became a volunteer director of Ottawa's Beechwood Cemetery 14 years ago. There was a major controversy going on over an attempt to sell 60 of the 160 acres of cemetery land for development. Do you know that it took 7 long years of battle in lawyers' office and in courts to fight this battle, this controversy, to solve it? But in the end, we won. And now Beechwood has been designated as Canada's National Cemetery, Bill C-17, by the Government of Canada. It is our national military cemetery and the RCMP Memorial Cemetery. And I encourage you all to come sometime and visit the magnificent $7 million building that we have put up at Beechwood. It's unique in the world, where every world religion can worship. We call it the sacred space. And I believe someday it will become a place of pilgrimage for Canadians, just as Arlington Cemetery is in Washington is for Americans. It's my dream, too. You know, and it will. You know, I'm a baker's daughter, and I've seen what a little bit of yeast can do to make a beautiful loaf of bread. I use that analogy to describe what a handful of us were able to do 21 years ago. A handful of us were able to do to start the Community Foundation of Ottawa. From the interest raised over the years from our capital fund, do you know what we have been able to give out? Over $50 million in grants to charitable organizations in Ottawa from that little bit of yeast. Now there's one last story I want to tell you. I've been part of a small group of volunteers who 16 years ago started out helping a Ugandan student who was going to Algonquin College. One day he heard that his sister and brother-in-law had both died of AIDS, leaving him 5 nephews and nieces between the ages of 7 and 12. He had barely enough money to get through Algonquin, so we took on to pay the school fees of those 5 children. Today, that commitment is called the Can Have Children Center, which now pays for the education of 60 AIDS orphans near Kampala, Uganda. And now we have taken on the challenge to build a 5-room trade school for them so they can earn a living. It's been one of the most fun, challenging, and worthwhile projects I have ever been part of. For my 80th birthday this summer, I asked 300 of my Ottawa friends if they would like to make a gift for my 80th. Would they donate to help furnish the Can Have Trade School, which is up. At an afternoon reception in my home, which is the oldest in Ottawa, as you've heard, do you know that those friends, bless their hearts, they donated over $13,000 to help build a dormitory for the young women attending the trade school. An architect and an engineer in Uganda are working on the plans as I speak. Yet I'm not finished contributing to my community. I can tell you that at 80 years of age, my life has never been as full, fun, or fascinating. I have to admit that the old bones creak at times, but for me, the gift of life is so precious that I get up at 6 a.m. in the morning and I go for it. There's no question that we are in challenging times. But I say to you, always dare to dream. You have to work at your dreams, you have to believe in them, but dreams do come true. And I leave you this morning with 3 short sentences from the Old Testament that I say to myself every morning when I get up. Listen to them, there's just 3. Be joyful always, pray at all times, be thankful in all circumstances. You know? And I am one very grateful Canadian who salutes and congratulates every single one of you today as you start on the next chapter of your lives. I ask God's blessing on each one of you. And I thank Carleton University for this wonderful gift to me of an honorary doctorate. Thank you.